Hi folks, this is Will, and I wanted to take the opportunity to talk to you about Diesel Jocks. And specifically, I wanted to talk to you about the Diesel Jocks of the Sequoia Wastes. Now, what's a Diesel Jock? Well, I'll pull a quote from the new book. Diesel Jocks are the warriors of the road, the ones that make bikes and other vehicles out of rusted scrap and the remains of engines in order to travel across the wasteland. Their ancestors realized that if you could travel fast enough, you could outdrive any threat. Diesel Jocks usually wear leather, metal, and use materials that will protect them from wind burn and road rash should they ever fall off their rides. They're often covered in oil and grease from working on their vehicles, and many of them are experts at mechanics and engineering. They treat their vehicles with respect and reverence, often naming them and acting as if they are a valued member of their group, which, in many respects, they are. This strain is grittier and steelier than the other nomads. Rough and rugged from the road, they form gangs and groups that are thick as thieves. They also tend to be blunter than other nomads and often more violent. However, this strain will also make sure to protect their own. A group of Diesel Jocks will always band together if there's a threat from the outside. Now, Diesel Jocks are dirty, they're covered in dust, grease, grime, or maybe blood paste from a person grinder that they may or may not be operating. So that's the general overview of what a Diesel Jock is across the setting. Now, here in Oklahoma, we have some differences. There are, at the moment, 4 prominent factions that exist with a significant number of characters that are not players, but the non-player characters that kind of take up the background spaces and the casted spaces. And these 4 groups are the Asphalt Saints, the Crankcase Crew, the Oil Rags, and the Road Royals. And so, some of these are newer names, and some of these are names that are just now making themselves fully known within the Sequoia Wastes, and I'll explain all of that here in a moment. But let's start out with the most populous and most well-received member of the Sequoia Wastes Diesel Jock community, and that's the Asphalt Saints. Now, the Asphalt Saints were historically a Diesel Jock-only organization. They recruited exclusively from members of the Engineers of Hope, which is a Sainthood of Ashes faction that focuses on building, oddly enough. But in recent years, the Asphalt Saints have become more about their mission and less about the people. So anyone that is dedicated to the sovereignty of the Mother Road, which is Route 66, has the ability to petition to join the Asphalt Saints. Now, at the moment, the Asphalt Saints are still overwhelmingly Diesel Jock. But those numbers are changing as people realize that the realities of the road bring a lot of opportunities to the Sequoia Wastes. Now, the challenge there is that the Asphalt Saints are widely perceived as selfless heroes, protagonists. And in the way they pursue the continued construction of the Mother Road and the restoration of it, that's true. But the challenge there is that the Mother Road is the mother of all things to be concerned about. So sometimes if it's a choice between continuing the safety of the mother road or other strains, other settlements, even perhaps other diesel jocks, the road, the mother road, takes priority because it is the mother road that will carry you to the future. It is the mother road that will protect you, so you must protect it. And by and large, these moments don't happen terribly often, but when they do, they can cause friction in diesel jock communities. Now, the Asphalt Saints are growing and continuing to induct new people as long as they are dedicated to the restoration and preservation of the mother road. And people see them mostly as good folks, because mostly they are. I mean, they're all Sainthood of Ashes. They're all trying to do a good thing, but sometimes their priorities conflict with others. Now, going from a group that is almost overwhelmingly seen as the protagonists of their stories, we're going to move on to a group that can often be described as petty, treacherous, self-serving, and profit-focused. Now, this is the Crankcase crew. They are, they're dirty, they're loud, they are the epitome of the noisy, annoying diesel jock culture. And they, too, have taken to bringing new people into their ranks that aren't necessarily exclusively diesel jocks. The crew is focused on the production and distribution of wasteland narcotics and various other drugs and fun things. There's this rumor that the Crankcase operate people traps all across the wasteland. So if you ever see something out there in an oasis that looks a little too good to be true, watch your feet, because you may be about to fall into a Crankcase pit trap. Now, don't worry, you won't be in there long. I mean, if these things exist, that is, because a dedicated member of the pit checking crew will be there to rescue you and stuff you in a grinder. I mean, if those grinders existed. Not saying that they do. The Crankcase were well regarded for creating the Crankcase Fancy Soap, which was something that was quite amusing because they would sell it by the truckload to pureblood casinos, because for some reason these very, very messy diesel jocks were able to make soap that the fanciest of sorts were absolutely enamored with. And then we've got the oil rags. And the oil rag diesel jocks is kind of a patchwork community of folks who got left behind on the road by, for one reason or another, and decided that they weren't ready to die yet. So oil rags may have had a previous diesel jock home or a previous diesel jock affiliation, but they decided that their community is stronger than the forces to the outside. And since they were born, created, formed, however you want to put it, they always included outsiders because all sorts of people get found along the road. Predominantly, these were diesel jocks. And for the longest time, the oil rag diesel jocks were a joke. They were a punchline. They were the kind of diesel jock you would compare your diesel jock friend to if you wanted to start a fist fight. They didn't really have much in the way of rides or resources or anything along those lines. And then something happened. These folks, through the external intervention of one group of grifters, was introduced to the fallow hope. Not just any fallow hope, but Porta's Patrol, which the individual known as Porta has quite the background within the Sequoia Wastes. That's a story for another day. But this group of diesel jocks and hangers-on was introduced to the group that is now known as Porta's Patrol, and they now work together and have kind of blended in with the Porta's Patrol. So they move around a lot better now because diesel jocks excel at vehicles when they have the materials. And once the oil rags were able to form up with the members of Porta's Patrol, that alliteration kind of smashes me in the face sometimes, so I mess it up. Once Porta's Patrol and the oil rags kind of started rolling together, things got even more interesting. And that particular crew has been very busy during the challenges, this war with the final nights. And the last entrance on this list is the Road Royals. Now, the Road Royals were initially a diesel jock group from Lone Star, from the Texas game. But through continued and deliberate efforts from their faction and other people that were supporting their faction, the story has evolved to the point where there are Road Royals working on the Mother Road just at the border where where Oklahoma ends and Texas begins. There's not a whole lot of them, a dozen maybe, but these folks, these road crew Road Royals, are dedicated to the road and dedicated to making sure that it is something that gets taken care of. Now, they didn't fully patch over to being Asphalt Saints, so they're still Road Royals. They just spend a bit more time during road season patching stuff up. So that's the factions. Now, the next thing that I want to dive into is a quick description of how each faction can be identified visually. Now, the Asphalt Saints are fond of the color yellow, especially when it's associated with the yellow and black stripe that is often found on the side of roads or in construction equipment. They are, aside from that, they are often seen sporting something that talks about the Mother Road or Route 66. This can be road signs, memorabilia, anything. And there's a lot of Route 66 memorabilia. So they can sometimes be absolutely covered in this stuff. The crankcase crew, the crankcase crew were not really big on branding, but what happened because of that is a lot of them, when they're working their grinders that they're totally not sending people through, they kind of get covered in this sticky red paste. It's blood, but it's also a blood byproduct. So very often the back of their hands are just smeared with red, and their very shirts are usually a dull red, that kind of like the red clay of our state, and they their branding as far as what is like individual crankcase crews might use, that can be whatever they want. The crossed pistons is pretty popular, and it's seen all the time. And the oil rags don't really have a good brand. If you see a Diesel Jock and you can't tell what faction they belong to, there's a good chance that they are an oil rag. Now, the Road Royals retain all of the stuff that they have from their home territory. They're fond of checkered flags, and all the stuff that supports that. So that's the quick way to visually identify the 4 different Diesel Jock factions that are active within the Sequoia Wastes. Now, during this season, we may see more, and then we will update this. But, we will work on more of this coming forward. So if you are interested in this sort of thing and you want to learn more, please leave a comment below. We would love to hear what you're interested in learning. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the wasteland.